Thank you for joining me on the Fire Rescue Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, AZ. I find the research and resources and then provide the fire service with the so what, now what, to ensure the health and well-being of every member of our profession. Together, let's thrive. Hey, Fire Rescue Wellness Podcast listeners. It's AZ back with solo episode number 34. Before I get started today, I want to sincerely thank you for listening to the podcast. I really appreciate it. It's beyond humbling getting your comments and your feedback, and I'm so grateful for each and every one of you. So thank you, sincerely. Today I want to talk about going where you don't belong. I just did a post on Instagram today about going where you don't belong. And let me give you where this kind of came from. It is a Sunday, February 19th, and I'm recording this episode in advance for a Friday release. And I just got back from the 4th annual Society for Neurosports conference in Florida. And so I'm sort of all basking in the glow of a wonderful 4 days spent in Florida. And well, to be honest with you, I got home really a long time past my bedtime last night. I did not get in bed until midnight. And so I'm kind of, I'm suffering today, but also basking in the glow. So we'll split the difference there. While I was in Florida, I had the wonderful opportunity to hang out and stay with the very gracious Kelly Kennedy from episode 17. If you haven't had a chance to listen to that episode, Kelly Kennedy is the health and wellness coordinator for one of the biggest PDs in the entire United States. So check that out. But Kelly and I had a wonderful time. I also had the opportunity to go and be seen by the queen of physical therapy, Dr. Katie Dabrowski, at Old Bull Athletics in Miami, technically Coral Gables. It was an unbelievable experience. She is one of the best practitioners I have ever met in my life. If you ever have a chance to see Katie Dabrowski in a physical therapy or a training environment, do it. You know what? Schedule a trip to Miami just to do it. And if you want to hear more from Katie, you can listen to episode 6. But what I want to really dive into today is the fact that you might be actually wondering right now, Annette, you're a firefighter, a career firefighter, and you do strength and conditioning, and I know you have a business. What in the actual F were you doing at a neurosports conference? And also, you just said 4th annual. Oh, I guess I didn't tell you. I've been to all 4 of the 4 annual neurosports conferences. I'm kind of an addict. Once you start, you can't stop. But I tend to go to a lot of events and trainings and even present at events and trainings where people actually say, like, hey, we're really glad you're here, but what are you doing here? You're a firefighter and a strength and conditioning coach. Like, why are you at the ISSN, the International Society of Sports Nutrition? They don't really understand why I'm there, and they're very welcoming, but they're just kind of like, oh, that's interesting. But let's back it way up to the early 2000s. I kind of made a list on my Instagram post of some really weird trainings that I have attended. And the first one that I can remember, I went to a half-day class presented by the United States Secret Service on threat assessment. And I think that was around 2000. I wasn't a law enforcement officer. I wasn't even a firefighter at that time. I was a personal trainer. But it was the most interesting class maybe I had ever attended to date and possibly have ever attended. Super interesting class. I learned so much. Also in the early 2000s, I attended certification courses for both USA Track and Field and USA Weightlifting. Now, granted, I was coaching track and field part-time back then, but I wasn't a track and field coach by any means. But those two courses taught me so much that I'd never even considered before. I took kind of a break from training for, I call it my decade of darkness and despair. So fast forward to 2014, I went to the NSCA hockey clinic. And again, I was training one hockey player, but the fact that I went to a hockey clinic when I'm really not a hockey coach or a hockey strength and conditioning professional kind of gave people pause. They're like, oh, hey, welcome. Oh, you're a firefighter? That's weird. So the year after that, I actually went to the ISSN, the International Society for Sports Nutrition Conference. And same thing, everyone was so welcoming. But again, like, hey, what are you doing here? And so, and same thing with neurosports, same thing. But what I'd like you to consider is that in my experience, I learned more that I could take home and use and apply to firefighting and apply to strength and conditioning. I learned more at those conferences where I didn't belong than I ever learned at conferences where people would go, oh, I get it. I understand why you're here. And so this concept I want to talk to you a little bit about today. I think in most careers, they just call it the silo effect. Everyone gets into their little silo, and those silos become echo chambers. And when you're in an echo chamber, everyone's kind of just agreeing with what you're saying or a version of what you're saying. And really, there aren't any greatly innovative ideas. No one, people fight on the internet, of course, all the time. Just go over to Twitter and throw out, I think the best way to strength train is 3 sets of 10, and you'll have 500 people arguing with you within 30 seconds. But really and truly, we get in these silos, we get in these echo chambers, and we start to lack innovation. And so I would like to encourage you to consider stepping out of your comfort zone and attending a class or attending a training that maybe doesn't on paper make a whole lot of sense. The other thing I'd like you to consider is, yes, most of us need continuing education credits for whatever credentials we possess. We need them in the fire service. We need them for EMS. I need them for nutrition now. I forgot to mention that. Not only am I an attendee of the ISSN and the Neurosports Societies, I'm also certified by both of them, and I've also presented at both of their conferences. So really and truly, you can transition from not belonging or feeling like you don't belong to literally finding a tribe. But I digress. Back to that continuing education aspect of it. Yes, we need those continuing education credits, but I would challenge you to consider the fact that maybe sometimes you should attend a training just to get a new perspective, even if there's no continuing education credits provided. I'm going to leave you with one more thought. In 2016, I asked my physical therapist if she would like to attend with me a rock tape course. Shout out to Paula if you're listening. So Paula and I registered for this course. Now, it made sense for Paula to be there. She's a physical therapist. She can use what she learned in the class on her patients because she's allowed to touch people. She also received continuing education credits for attending that class. It made sense for Paula to be there. It did not make sense for me to be there on paper. I don't have the ability to touch, so I cannot, by license, apply rock tape to another human. I didn't receive continuing education credits for going to that course. But you know what I received? I received a friend for life. That course is where I met Shante Cofield, the movement maestro, back to episode number 19, who has become a great friend, a wonderful mentor, and someone who has really brought so much value to my life by simply giving me the confidence to become so much more competent in everything that I do. So I'm going to leave you with a challenge today, and I'm going to wrap it up. My challenge to you, find something that's outside of your silo, that's outside of your wheelhouse, and more than likely outside of your comfort zone, and go to it. Attend it. You never know what you're going to learn and what's going to happen. Thanks for listening. This is AZ, and I am